Good morning, James. First of all, let me just say how happy I am to see you home safe. I think I speak for everyone when I say that. Secondly, I'm trying to decide if you could get any more vague than people are fascinating. I'm not convinced either way. I'm kidding. Mostly. So anyways, if you guys don't mind, I think I'm going to very briefly go back to the topic of expectations because I have stuff to say about that, and hopefully I'll manage to find some way to relate that to what you talked about yesterday, James. No idea how I'm going to do that, but anyways, here is Spencer on expectations. Yeah, I'm against them. Yeah, I know expectations are natural and they're everywhere and we wouldn't be able to function without them, but I'm talking more about the ones that we consciously think about and more likely stress about. Because personally, I have found it very easy to get caught up in expectations, and then that causes me to be stressed, and I don't like me when I'm stressed. And yeah, I think stress is more or less inevitable when you're dealing with expectations. At least for me it is, and I think it's because of how situational expectations are and how easily they change. And for a person like me, that means that my expectations of myself are always changing so that they don't work out very well for me. To give an example that has actually happened, one time in 10th grade I got a 100 on a history test, and that does not happen. So needless to say, I was surprised and excited and happy about it, but more than that, I just found myself very disappointed when the next test came around and I got a high B, even though that was much more the norm and it would have been a grade that I would have normally been happy with. So yeah, I try to avoid expecting anything of myself in school. Not to say that I don't care, but I just don't hold myself to expectations, because my expectations are ludicrous. And it's not just in school that I find my expectations are ridiculous. Truth be told, I don't expect anyone to like me. And it's not like this serves any purpose either. I still take it much more personally than I care to admit when people actually don't like me. So yeah, there are some instances where I have expectations where I don't want those expectations to be met, and that's kind of stupid. So whenever possible, I just try not to expect anything, and that kind of lets me take stuff at face value, and it makes me more objective, I feel like, and that's all good stuff. So back to responding to James. I think I'm going to skip over the topic of watching people because, I mean, I do it, but I just don't have that much to say about it. And instead I want to talk about the reasons why we do stuff. Namely, this is in relation to what you were saying about AP classes, but I feel like it's an idea that's really applicable to a lot of things. So I guess I should start off by saying that I've kind of had the exact opposite experience than you have in terms of AP classes, and I mean opposite in almost every sense of the word. See, last year I took 4 AP classes, and I don't bring that up to complain about the amount of work I have, and I wouldn't dream of that. Not only because I know Katie did IB and she would probably go on a rampage if I compared AP to IB, but also because it's just not true. See, at our school, with some notable exceptions being history and psychology, many of the AP classes had less work than the honors classes. For example, I took AP Calculus for 2 years and I had the same teacher for both years, and I couldn't have asked for a better situation, because in the 2 years I took Calculus, I never once opened my calc book. The homework was there purely for our benefit, and that meant different things for different people. There were people like me who didn't need the extra practice, so they got along just fine in the class without doing homework. There were people who actually did need the extra practice, and they did the homework, and they did very well in the class because they got the extra practice they needed. And then there were people who definitely could have stood to do the homework but didn't, and then did very poorly in the class. But my point is that I loved how that class worked because it wasn't just work for the sake of work, it was work for the sake of learning if you needed it. And in a class like that, I feel like I'm learning and doing work for the right reasons. And I mean, sure, we also practiced how to get points on the AP exam, but that's kind of an inherent goal, and it's not as bad as, say, the SATs. And I feel like standardized tests are really bad in this regard. Because, I mean, sure, they do kind of gauge your aptitude, but beyond a certain point, they're more testing your ability to take the SATs than anything else. And I feel like it's kind of telling that it's not good enough anymore to just take the SAT and see how apt you are. You have to practice and prepare not only your math and reading skills, but also your test-taking skills. And I feel like it's kind of pointless to have a test that just measures your test-taking ability. One final example, hopefully I'll have time for this. People on YouTube who, so far as I can tell, are only on YouTube to get subscribers. And subscribers are great, and I definitely think about them, but I feel like the video making and the community comes first, because it's through those things that you can make close friends and do cool things like make a Canadian collab channel. Sometimes I worry that we like ourselves too much. Whatever. Jeff, I'll see you tomorrow.